Welcome back. You're watching Newsx. I'm Rishabh Gulati. The arc of history is long, said Martin Luther King Jr., but it bends towards justice. What are we seeing happening in a Chinese city a couple of hours from Beijing, where the world, it seems to be uniting other than the Americans? Is it just a photo opportunity? Is it just a matter of convenience, a blip in the radar on that arc of global history, which seem to be heading in a different direction? Or are we seeing something dramatic actually take place, which would be inexplicable, incomprehensible to a lot of people, and let me say admittedly, including myself? Joining us now on the broadcast is Scott Faulkner. He's the head of Eagle Enterprises from Washington, D.C. He's been a former member of the Reagan administration. For people watching the broadcast, he personally is contributing whatever he can to the promotion of India-US ties. Mr. Faulkner, things were going great just a couple of months ago, and they're now going not so great. What do we do with it?
It's a mess. The old Chinese curse is, may you live in interesting times, and I think a lot of people are craving boredom right now. There's just a lot going on. I mean, in the last 24 hours, you've seen a U.S. Federal Court of Appeals actually strike down Trump's tariffs, saying that the emergency powers that he cites from 1977 really do not apply, that only Congress can apply the kind of tariffs that Trump put in place. Now, he's going to take that to our U.S. Supreme Court, but that really disrupts a lot of things. You also have in motion a lot of things happening with the de minimis removal of dealing with tariffs, which for people who are unfamiliar, that going back literally 100 years or more, the value of a individual good under $800 was always exempt from tariff, no matter what other tariff environment there was. Trump removed that, and there's already been repercussions in Europe and other places where people are actually suspending shipments of even these smaller goods into the United States. There's also suspension of international mail going on with the United States, as some of these countries are saying, this is not what we want. We need to get Trump's attention. So there's just a lot of things happening at the same time that Trump named one of his closest intimates, Sergey Gore, to be ambassador to India. And he's already made a number of statements that have not been taken well by India. And now that Congress comes back in later next week, you'll start to see confirmation hearings with him, and there'll be a lot of very strong questions raised about U.S.-India relations at a very public forum. So a lot of moving parts right now as everybody...
to quote from a former British Foreign Secretary, Robin Cook, who left the UK administration in the middle of the Iraq War, he wrote a book called The Point of Departure. Something happened at a particular point. So I can reasonably tell you that the tariff negotiations was not the point of departure. We here in India perfectly understand that it is the Trump administration's duty to its people to have the best deal for Americans. It is the duty of our government to have the best deal for Indians. Somewhere in between, a negotiation has to happen, and some tariffs have to be adjusted. During the last Trump administration, we saw purchase of Boeing aircraft and American military equipment happen in scales of hundreds of billions of dollars. So I can totally understand it. So that was not the point. The point seems to be that when you are telling Indians you are going to be punished for this war which you are perpetuating in Ukraine, and on top of that you invite a Pakistani military chief to dinner at the White House. So that seems to be more of an issue than a negotiation of tariffs, which we accept is part and parcel. Why did that happen, sir?
Well, that's the issue right now, is that Trump is trying to reinvent America on the world stage. And really, for the first time in a couple hundred years, we're kind of looking at this mercantilism where everything is being done through the focus of trade. And it's sort of a joke that goes on in America that if all you think you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so there are many different ways to develop relationships, trade and otherwise, with countries, especially countries as important as the US-India relationship, and yet trade and tariffs are the only things that Trump and his team are proceeding with, especially this whole issue of linking it to Ukraine, linking it to the issue of Russian oil going to India. A lot of us are a little bit mystified because the US-India relations was on such a great track with the vice president and his Indian wife visiting a few months back. The whole issue of reshoring of the supply chain from China, either directly back into the United States or to places like India, to again undermine China's momentum in the world, but in India becoming a fundamental part of that strategy. And now everything just seems to be in flux. It's very, very complex. It's actually perplexing.